What up, though, and welcome to the Living Noir Podcast. I'm your host, Delaney. I'm a serial entrepreneur residing on the south side of Chicago, and I'm currently on the journey to retire my 9-to-5 job and become my wildest manifestations. The Living Noir Podcast was created to share all of my wins, the lessons, not the losses, and everything in between. It's basically my journal. And my goal is to connect, empower, and inspire individuals to become their wildest positive manifestations by creating positive examples of determining self-worth, normalizing and advancing the conversation of mental health and generational wealth amongst the Black and Brown communities, and most importantly, creating and fueling our passions and hobbies to become foundations for our future success. So break bread with me as we all go on this journey together. And it all starts with taking the first step, and my step starts right now. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Living Noir Podcast. I am your host, Delaney, and we are back with another episode. So glad that you guys could come back and sit with me for another episode. For this one, I'm going to go over a couple things. What I want to discuss with you guys is 5 easy steps that I've taken for myself to help me with starting a positive routine earlier in the day. Hopefully there's a couple of tips you can take for yourself. They're small little things that you can start to implement over time. It helps with building that routine and building that and strengthening that muscle so that way you are doing things that are helping benefit you. And then I want to get into more of how I started my Turo business. I think I mentioned this before, but that's going to be something that I'm going to be continuously discussing and providing you with information. If you were interested in Turo, and if you're not familiar with what it is, Turo basically is a car sharing platform that you are able to rent vehicles from other users and rent their vehicles for whatever occasion you may need it for. So think of it as just like Airbnb for cars. So I'm going to talk about how that came about and what I thought about in order to get started with that. And then we'll follow up with another audiobook for the week, and we'll get out of here. But again, I thank you all for coming back for this next episode. It really means a lot, and make sure that you follow this podcast and subscribe so that way you are notified when I have other episodes coming out. You can also follow me on Instagram at Living Noir, and that is LIVING N0IR. So LIVING N0IR. So you can follow me there. But before we go ahead and get into the 5 steps, like I said, I got a quick ad, of course. Mentioned to you this before. Of course, these ads aren't paid, but I want to shout out, all my local entrepreneurs, people that I know that are starting small businesses, that are just trying to get out here, get their names established. I just want to make sure that I show them a little support, and you get out there and show them support as well. So by me spreading the word, hopefully it helps them, which comes back to me. Every good deed, of course. All right, I'm talking a little bit too much. Anyway, does your living room seem a little bit drab? Are you looking to brighten up the room and make it a little bit more exciting and vibrant? Do yourself a favor and get yourself some wonderful one-of-one custom acrylic pouring pieces from pothosandpatterns.com. Love a Mother is a artist that has perfected this painting style method and has created beautiful pieces such as Hallelujah and Gas Me Up. You can check out these pieces and all of her incredible artwork on pothosandpatterns.com. That's POTHOSANDPATTERNS.com. Make sure you let her know that Delaney sent you, because again, like I said, these ads aren't paid, but they're always helping. Anyway, back to the show. Okay, so 5 easy steps that I took to implement a positive routine. Now, this was important to me because it's something that I just started to do slowly but surely over time. I don't know what, I think I was around maybe like 25, and I just had a moment to myself, and I was just thinking, like, I want the next 5 years I want to be able to improve on myself in every standard of every way. I want to be a better person mentally. I want to be in better physical shape. I want to be, better career wise. So I think it was just this epiphany that I knew that I wanted more out of myself, and it wasn't going to be easy. And I've realized since that time that there were a lot of small collective things that I've done over the years that have gotten me to this point. I was 25, I'm 31. So we're talking about 6 years ago. So, and I just recently started doing these 5 tips as well. So it's not like I've always been doing these, but I do know that this does help tremendously. So I'm going to share this with you. If you like it, you can keep it. If not, send it right on back, baby. Number 1. Schedule your alarm to wake you up 1 hour earlier than you normally would. Now, of course, we love sleep, and I'm a huge advocate to make sure that, you get the right amount of sleep. But of course, there's always that saying, too much of anything can be unhealthy for you. And there's, of course, thousands of studies that show you that waking up earlier in the day helps you with, better concentration. It improves your mood, and overall, it just gives you more time to get shit done. Because usually, if you're up, and I hate when I hear people say, you got that YouTube motivational speaker, when they sleep, you woke, we grind, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of cheesy, but no, like, seriously, like, you'll find that you'll be able, like, earlier in the day, there's a lot less people up, so you are able to take that time and just have a quiet moment for yourself. So normally for me, my first alarm goes off at 4:30. Now, I said that my first alarm goes off at 4:30. Doesn't necessarily mean that I'm getting up at 4:30, but I do use that as kind of like a body adjuster, kind of like telling myself it's like a 30-minute warning or so that I'm getting up pretty soon. So that way, when I get up in 30 minutes, I'm not like jolting out of my sleep. I've kind of already known that I'm getting up soon. So think of it kind of like just a reminder. So it kind of helps me with easing up. And then I get up. It's about 5 o'clock, 5:30, depending on the day. But when I get up at 5, I usually don't have to start work until about 8 o'clock. So it gives me about 3.5 hours to do whatever I want to do at that time. Now, that's me. Like I said, you don't necessarily have to start so early at 4:30. Just try with an hour, at least an hour before you get up. Like if you get up, I feel like I'm old. So if I feel like people are up by like 10 o'clock, I would think, right? So because they have to be at work at like 8 or 9 o'clock, I would think, like the usual person. I don't want to say usual, everything's unusual, but whatever. If you get up normally at 9 o'clock, set an alarm for 8, right? Just try it out for a week and don't plan that time out, but get out of the bed. So get up, take a moment for yourself. Just sit there. You can think. What I like to do is I'll either, with my routine, I'll get up in the morning, I'll make some coffee, I'll sit, I'll look out the window, I'll try not to think about my day, I'll start thinking about what I want to do in the day, but I just try to use that time as much as possible. And so just try it for at least a week and see if it works for you. Just try it out what you do with that time as well. That's important. Try it out what you do with that time. Even if you don't do anything with it, if you feel as if like, man, I could be getting more sleep, yeah, that's fine too. But if you also feel like, okay, well, I did feel like I had a little bit more time to do this. Oh, I forgot I had an email that I was supposed to send back to somebody. Let me go send that email real quick. Or I know that I have to do something for the house, like whatever it is, you just get more time to plan it out. So schedule your alarm 1 hour earlier than you normally would. So try that out. That's number 1. Number 2, start writing out your goals, right? Physically writing out your goals. You start writing them out. We all talk about accomplishing goals every day. I'm going to start a new hobby. I want to lose weight. I want to stop eating this. I want to stop drinking. I want to do, we say it all the time, right? So the next thing you want to do from that is physically write out what you want to do. So write out your goals. And I don't necessarily mean like write it out in your notes app. Although I'm not like against writing out your goals in your notes app, because at least you are starting out by tracking what exactly you want to do. I'm an advocate of at least starting there, but getting a notebook and actually writing it out. I used to be the person I still have a ton of notes, and I still use my notes app all the time. But I used to be the person that would just write things consistently in my notes app. And then I started to realize that the more I wrote in it, I can't go back. It would be more difficult for me to go back and look at something that I wrote a week ago, 2 weeks ago, because the note keeps getting pushed down by the new notes that I open up. So for me, it's easier to flip to a page or something that I wrote a couple weeks ago versus having to scroll down and remember something that I wrote a couple of weeks ago with no context or whatever. So, but yeah, start writing your goals out. What you can do is to start with like something small, is get yourself a couple of gimme goals. Right? Gimme goals that's something that I came up with, because it's like a goal that you can do that can be accomplished with, it's really depending on your effort, right? It's something that can easily be accomplished and you can track within that week. And it's like a jump starter for you to get familiar with starting and attacking and completing a goal, right? For example, let's say you wanted to set a goal to make your bed every day consistently for a week, right? So I say get a notebook, write out what you want to do and how the steps that you take. You also want to write out the steps that you plan on taking to accomplish the goal. So if we keep going with the bed example, just ask yourself, what you can do to ensure that you complete this daily. So, okay, well, I could put a Post-it note next to the bed and on the back of my door, so that way I have those two reminders that help me make the bed before I leave the room in the morning. So even if I gotta use the bathroom really bad, I have to make sure that I make the bed before I leave the room. This way it kind of forces you to follow through on your goal. That again is your effort. So you may even notice that after a few days have gone by, you've gotten used to making the bed, that it's just starting to become a habit. And for me at least, I notice that usually when I make my bed and the rest of the room is still kind of crazy, when I walk back in that room, I do still feel a sense of you get tension, of course, when your room is kind of messy, but you don't really notice it until you come in the room and you notice at least when you have a clean room, you'll notice you feel a little bit lighter. I do know that, right? But when you make your bed up, it does kind of help in those situations where it's kind of messy, because your bed looks clean. It starts to look like, okay, well, it doesn't look as bad as it is in there, but it does help mentally for me, so you can try that out. And as a gimme goal for a week, and track your progress, right? Once you start checking off that box of evaluating what I did that day. Okay, I made my bed. I said I was going to make my bed on Monday. Check. Tuesday, check. Wednesday, check. Thursday, check. Great. I'm doing it. You know what I mean? You get hype, you get motivated, you get ready to tackle what's next. You want to do another one. You know what I mean? So it's a good gimme goal to get you started. So you want to make sure that, you start writing out your goals. That's number 2. Now, this third tip, and you may want to go ahead and you may want to skip past this, but I'm pretty sure you don't want to, because this is actually really important. And it took me a lot to even get to this point. But the third thing is you have to incorporate some type of fitness, right? You have to. I think it's vital, because it's not only a physical exercise, it's a mental exercise, right? You have to incorporate fitness into your daily and your weekly routine. Discipline is doing something that you hate to do, nonetheless doing it like you love it. The great Mike Tyson. So it's important. You have to do the things that you don't like to do if you know that they're important for you to get better. You can start out slow. The more important thing is to learn to become more active, learn to build up that discipline, that barrier of sweat. that you're just used to doing, and then you can grow from there. But you just start to get active. When I started out with this, like in the beginning, when I started working out, what helped me really was just trying to think about sweating, right? I try to find like a YouTube video where they have like the HIIT trainings, which is the high intensity interval trainings, that, work up a sweat. That get you going, that get your heart rate elevated. You know what I mean? Even if I'm doing that for a 15-minute session, those things really do help you. They really get the blood going. So I started out there. I just started out doing those just to get active, because if you haven't been active for a long period of time, you just want to get started with something. And again, from there, it starts to snowball, right? So from me starting to do random workouts, I just began to start writing down what workouts or what sides of the body that I want to work on for that day. And all of this is free. YouTube is free. Writing this information down is free. Even if you buy a notebook, you can buy a notebook at the $1.25 store. It's not the dollar store anymore. Thanks a lot, Dollar Tree. But you can buy a notebook from the $1.25 store or whatever. Just find you something, right? And from there, I focused on, okay, Monday, what do I want to work on? I want to work on my chest, my shoulders, and my arms. So I'll dedicate that. Tuesday, I'm gonna find YouTube videos for that to help me build that, at least to get me started. So, and I find out when I work out in the morning, right? Because I'm already up. It's quiet. It's my wife and I. She's, so she is more than likely asleep. I'll come downstairs. I'll work out. I'm able to be as loud as I need to be. I can have my music going. And by the time, anything else is started for the day or the sun is out, I'm already done with working out. And I've used that time. So it does a lot for your mental, because I do find that usually when I'm working out, some of my best thoughts come, and I try to keep my notebook handy if I can just jot something down, because I'm thinking about the day, or I'm thinking about the set. I feel good about, me getting all of this out, you know what I mean? But it takes a lot of discipline to get to that point. But you have to incorporate fitness. I see millions and millions of famous people, or just, I don't want to say famous, but wealthy people, or just well-to-do people. They all talk about how fitness is important, and taking care of their body is important, and dieting and eating. All of those things are very important, and they're very simple. And you see successful people that one of those core things is that they take care of their body. So the third tip I would always say is to make sure that you take care of your body, and you make sure that you incorporate fitness into your daily routine, because that'll be the next step in getting you where you need to be. So, number 4, take 10 minutes out of your day to create a to-do list. So just grab 10 minutes for yourself, usually in the start of the day if you're already waking up early. So I'm giving you some things that you can do within that time before you wake up an hour earlier. So boom, you can work out. You can also take 10 minutes of what you're going to do today that's going to help you with accomplishing those goals that you've already wrote out for yourself, right? Okay, if making the bed is one of those weekly goals, my to-do list, I'm writing out in the morning. Number 1, make sure that I make the bed. Okay, that's done. Check. You also want to work on, okay, what do I have to do for the rest of the day? I have to go to the grocery store. I have to prepare dinner. I have to go to this doctor's appointment. I need to make sure, once you start writing out just those bland things, I'll say, like the obvious things, you start to think about those small little things that you may have forgot, or you wouldn't even have thought to write down, So take 10 minutes out of your day. I usually like to do it in the morning after I finish my workout. Got a quick cup of coffee, sitting there, and I'm just writing out, what I want to do and get done for the day. So take 10 minutes to write out your tasks for the day and brainstorm. It does wonders for you, because you can usually, or Also you can, if you don't also, I'm sorry, excuse me, you don't always have to just write out your task or your to-do list. You can use that time to brainstorm too. You'll find that when you brainstorm or when you just get out your thoughts on paper, the to-do list will show itself anyway, because it'll be one of the things that's on the forefront of your mind. So if you take that time to just write what's going on for the day, what you have planned, and just brainstorm what's on your mind, it helps to alleviate a lot of those stresses, because it's like a form of you getting it out for yourself. So take 10 minutes to brainstorm and write out your tasks for the day. And the number 5 thing, which is very important and it's kind of difficult, but it's accepting accountability and also leading with grace. Now, taking accountability doesn't necessarily mean that you always have to be like the bigger person, but it does require that you and only you are responsible for the power that you have to obtain the best out of your life. That's the difficult part, right? Because it's like, you have to know that even if you have good intentions, if you're in a relationship and you and your partner, like, you have good intentions on your partner making sure that they're, treating you with respect, or they're doing the best by you. You want them to make you feel a certain way, and you tell them that. You can only tell them so much, but before they actually have to execute it on their own. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to automatically reflect on how you feel about yourself. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that you have to hold yourself accountable to create your own version, the best version of yourself. Nobody else is going to be able to do that for you, right? No one else is going to be able to make you happy. Nobody else is going to hold you down. No one else is holding you down outside of yourself. And the sooner you realize that, and not necessarily take blame or point fingers at yourself, just know that you are responsible and you are the master of your universe. As soon as you realize that, you can empower that. And that's a huge thing. It is hard, one, to take accountability in that regard, and two, it's hard to make sure that you realize that you are doing the best that you can as well. So that's where leading with grace kind of comes into play, right? Once you realize that you are doing the best that you can and you are responsible for being the best version of yourself, it's kind of easier for you to be able to see that in other people, right? Even if they're not where you are, let's say mentally, right? They haven't accepted their part of accountability. We all got that friend that's like, friend or family member or whatever, that's like, man, this employer didn't like me for such and such. They always picking on me. This person doesn't like me because of such and such. It's always them messing with me. I don't really be doing nothing. I don't understand why people why people keep messing with me. It's not anything. I just do my job. I don't mess with nobody, blah, blah, blah. It's always them. And you don't hear that person taking accountability for why they could be perceived that way, right? Or like any of that. It's just they're focused on the other person. So that, by you knowing that they're not even able to realize that, it's like, it's easier to be like, okay, they'll get to that point. Hopefully they'll be able to get to that point. They're not necessarily there, because it's hard. Being a person is hard for everyone. Everybody's going through something. So in that regard, you have to lead with grace, right? You have to be understanding. You don't necessarily have to bend to their will or their thinking, but you have to understand that they might not have that same sense of enlightenment at that time. So the 5 steps again. Number one, schedule alarm 1 hour earlier than you normally would. Number 2, create your goals. Number 3, you want to incorporate fitness into your daily routine. Number 4, take 10 minutes out of your day to brainstorm and create your task for the day. And number 5 is accepting accountability and leading with grace. So again, take these steps, just try them out. You can incorporate them one at a time. It doesn't really matter, but and track your progress. Just track how you feel. Check in with yourself and see like, okay, this week versus last week, I was able to get a little bit more done, or I really didn't like how this felt. Maybe I'll try 30 minutes. I wasn't really ready for the hour. And if you mess up, you have the intention of wanting to do this, it's okay. Like, it's always time for you to be able to do it again. Like, don't get discouraged, right? And let me know what you think about it, right? So reach out to me, share with your experiences and your thoughts. Let me know. I'm really interested, because I hope that these are some small things that you can try to do to help build yourself up, and we can keep going from there. So want to get into the next thing of the day, but before we do, I want to make sure that I hit you off with another ad really quick, and here we go. This segment of the podcast is brought to you by Honey Hair Co. Make your hair dreams a sweet reality. Since 2017, Honey Hair Co. has provided exceptional products and services for more than 10,000 orders. Explore premium quality wigs, bundles, enclosures, and frontals in a wide variety of patterns. Shop today at one of their brick and mortar locations located in Chicago, Atlanta, and in St. Louis, Missouri. Or you can shop online and have it shipped anywhere in the U.S. Visit today at honeyhairco.com. Tell them Delaney sent you. No, seriously. Tell them I sent you. And we are back. So now it is time to get into my Turo journey, how I started my Turo business. So again, just to go back a little bit, just wanted to go over what Turo is. Turo is a car sharing platform that you can download their app, Turo, and you are able to rent a vehicle from a third party, or just a person. Instead of having to go to a rental car place, you can just download the app, upload your license, and you are eligible to rent a car from anyone who has their vehicle on the platform. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why I started Turo, what the situation was, what research that I did, and just basically kind of what I learned to get started, right? So first thing I want to talk about is why I started doing Turo. So this was, I would say, back, this is early 2021. As I've been talking throughout, my goal is to get into real estate and to do real estate fix and flips, rental properties, do all of that. That's my goal. So my biggest thing right now is coming up with capital, right? And I want to figure out how I can come up with any type of passive income that I can think that'll help me with creating some capital. Not only that, but it'll be a nice side business venture as well that can start up in its own right. So the biggest thing was, to create some sort of passive income that'll help with paying itself, along with maybe bringing in some additional income for myself. Right now, my situation is that I'm working from home, so I don't really have a need to use a vehicle. My wife has a car, so I don't really need to use a vehicle. And I'm also really trying, of course, to get away from my 9-to-5, right? So for me, what did I start with, and what was my opportunity cost? If you're not familiar with opportunity cost, that's defined as basically the cost that's associated with not taking an alternative course of action. So basically that means that, my situation was that I had been working from home already for a year, and I hadn't really used my car that I had, right? So I was paying close to $300 a month for the car note, basically, on the vehicle, and I'd already been trying to reevaluate my financial situation and become a full-time entrepreneur. So I could either continue to let the car sit in the garage every day, or pay for it with or you try out this Turo option and at least try to get it to cover the car note and see what happens from there. Honestly, the opportunity cost in that situation is that, like, I just leave the car in the garage and don't do anything, right? Or I could try it out, and I'm already paying for the note. I might as well try to see if I can have somebody else pay for it, right? What did I have at the time? It was my baby. 2017 Jeep Cherokee. It was a red Cherokee. I call him Kane. Right. I bought the car. This, like I said, so this is around this time. This is like late April 2021, and I bought the car in September of 2019. And in September of 2019, it was no, I'm sorry, I can't remember. But I had about in April, I had about 25,000 miles on it. So it wasn't really a lot of miles on it. My payment was actually close to $400. It's $384 a month, and I owed $19,000 on the car. So one of the big things is that I mean, although it was my baby, I had little personal attachment to it because it's currently sitting in a garage, not making any money. The alternative is it could be out making some money for me. So I was willing to try some shit out. And not only that, I had a remote job, so I was able to work from home. And I had what I deem to be one of the most important things is support from my spouse. That is one of the most important things that if you're in any type of relationship, you need to make sure that you are vocal in what you're doing, and talk about that with your spouse. Make sure, even if there's some hesitancy on their end, just make sure that you explain it as like, this is something that you want to do and the reasons why. That is the most important thing, 100%. Right. So then around this time, of course, I know about it, but I'm not just going to blindly do it. Right. So I'm going to try to do as much research as I can. And of course, what does that mean? YouTube University, baby. So there was a couple of different people who I would look at their journeys on YouTube. David Shands, he has the morning entrepreneur meetings, and I know he does. He has another podcast, and there was an episode where he was on there with an entrepreneur who started his Turo platform, CEO Matty J, and he was talking about how he started. I also, followed a couple other people on YouTube: Stefan Marcourt, Aubrey Janik, Stephen Womack, Samara's Experience. So there's a couple of different people, and they all post periodically regarding the Turo experience. And if you are interested, take my information, take their information. I'll put their links in the show notes. But I would definitely recommend, just to get some familiarity on the do's and the don'ts, because that's what's important, is to be well-rounded in something that you're trying to get involved with. So what those videos and the research taught me basically is a couple things. The first thing is that everyone's experience is different, right? So you can't go into a business expecting only highs or only lows. The business is basically as fluid until its stability is created with experience. And of course, that comes with repetition and routine. So basically what I'm saying is that you may, starting out, experience a couple of early months of lows, 1 month of a really, really high that makes you feel really good, and a couple of months of lows again, right? It's ebbs and flows of everything. You just have to know that every experience is different, and you try to prepare as much as possible. But remember that, everything is going to be different. Someone else's experience is not going to be the same as yours, and vice versa. And that's okay, right? The second thing that I learned from those videos is that it's important that you have to remove the emotional attachment. Now, if you love your car to the point to where like you truly like lose sleep after it's gone on the first trip, and you're just like shaking, you can't think, you can't do any of that, don't do it. Right? Don't do it. This is a business, and emotion has to be removed in order for you to feel comfortable about trying to make money on this car, right? So you have to remove the emotional attachment, or I guess acknowledge that there's the attachment there, but understand that if that's going to hinder you from wanting to put the car on there or being scared of something happening, don't do it. Like I said, don't do it. Number 3, don't be perfect, but be prepared. Don't be perfect. Be prepared. I came up with that. So this is like the sheer difference between like holding yourself back because you're scared and you're trying to be calculated. You want to make sure that you have everything that you need in order for you to start properly. I get it, right? You always want to try to be as prepared as possible, but you'll never be 100% ready for any type of endeavor you're ready to do. For me, I gave myself like a 70-30% ratio in order to start. A lot of the 30% comes from like learning shit anyway, so you might as well try to get started on fly, so just so don't be perfect, be prepared. And the next thing was learning what was the alternative, right? If I didn't do it, right? If I didn't act on anything, I'd just continued to be frustrated with my job situation and being mad because I'm trying to figure out how I can navigate out of this 9 to 5, and I'm paying, just trying to think of other ways of what I could do and just kind of still be miserable because I still feel a little powerless. So the alternative is just staying where I was, right? I didn't want that. I definitely didn't want that. And then the fifth thing is always, of course, just to be a good human. I mean, it's at the end of the day, like Turo is a service business, right? So that comes with just being kind, just being respectful, and just to treat others the way that you would want them to be treated. Simple as that. It's not really a lot. You have a car. You want to make sure that the car is clean. You want to make sure that you it's gassed up. You just want to make sure that everything is set in play like you were renting a vehicle from somebody, and you wouldn't want stains all over the place, or it's sticky, or it's you didn't put coolant in the vehicle, there's air missing. You just want to do the simple things that you would want to make sure that it's taken care of for you, right? So I went over, did all of that research, right? And I learned those couple of things. And so the next thing was basically for me, it's time to get started. So this was the end of April, started in May. I got the car all clean. I took pictures of it, put it on the platform. And I want to say I remember it was the end of April, and then my first trip came the next day, but it was for May 3rd to May 7th. So I was geeked, right? I was nervous, but I was geeked at the same time. So the way that I had it set up was that I listed the vehicle, and also before I get into my first trip, how you get paid on Turo is like this. So there's a revenue sharing, right? So Turo makes basically they make a portion of the rental. So if you so it's basically a 70% 30% split, right? Where you receive 70% and then they will receive 30% of that trip fee. Their 30% basically covers how they run the platform, and also it covers the insurance that they use to cover their vehicles as well. Now, of course, you could adjust this if you wanted to be a little bit more aggressive on how much more money you get back. That, of course, you can go to 80-20, which, of course, the 20% reduces your insurance coverage. You could be less aggressive, 75-25, I believe. And I think there's even a 90-10. But I would always, of course, recommend just sticking with the 70-30 because you want to make sure that at least your insurance is taken care of. That is one expense that you really don't have to worry about, is the vehicle being insured, which is actually a good thing. So 70-30. So the way that the trip was set up, like I said, it was for May 3rd to May 6th. I had to deliver the car to the host location, which the place was about 5 minutes away from my location, which was fine. And the host ended up extending the trip one day. So I think it was from originally May 3rd to May 6th, and then they updated it a day for the 7th. And I just put it on the platform for a daily rate of about $65 a day. Just wanted to get a little traction, right? So With the check-in details, let's see. I took pictures of the vehicle once I got to the location. I delivered it to their home or to the person's house. I took plenty of pictures. I took crazy pictures, right? Because it was the first time, but I wanted to make sure that I got at least, right, the front bumper, solo tire shots, the driver's side, the passenger side, the rear bumper, the solo rear view mirrors, the windshield, the inside of the car, the inside of the back seats, the dashboard, and the odometer, right? So just like the main surface parts of the vehicle, so you can make sure that they look like they're still intact. Once the guest arrived, I asked for her to take I grabbed her ID so I could get a picture of her ID and a picture of the guest with a key in their hand. And you can upload all of these pictures to the Turo platform, but I do that just to ensure that one, I got a valid ID, and two, I've given the vehicle to the person, that they have the key. So, and then I answered any questions, and then I helped her set up the Bluetooth setting, right? So, when I left the trip, like I said, it was the place was the delivery location was about 5 minutes away from me. So I grabbed like a divvy bike, which in Chicago is like just one of those public bikes that you can rent, and I just rode that back to the house. But to go back into the story a little bit, the day before the trip, right? So I'm getting it washed, and I'm getting the car washed, and I'm getting everything together. I'm cleaning it out. I had to stop at the store, but for whatever reason, and I can't remember why, I had my iPad with me. And so I leave the car wash and I went to the grocery store, and I realized I had my iPad with me. So I stuck it up under the passenger seat. Of course, I left it in the car, right? Of course I did. I left it in the car for the trip. Now, by the time I realized that I had left it in the car, I'm like, damn, man, I didn't want to interrupt the guest for the trip. And I kept going back and forth about if I was going to reach out. So then I did decide to reach out, and then I was just like, hey, look, I was just reaching out, and I said, hey, I think I mistakenly left my iPad in the car. Whenever you get a chance, whenever you're back home, I can meet up with you to grab the iPad, and we weren't able to connect at the time, but I at least wanted her to know that there is the iPad that's in the car, just so, hey, look, I know I left it in there. It was under the seat. So if it came up missing or anything like that, I know. And I'm doing all of this messaging in the Turo app to the guest, right? So it's not too bad. It was like once the car was gone, it was gone. Like I actually forgot, you know what I mean? Because again, I'm working from home, and it didn't really change anything. I didn't have to drive anywhere. Like my wife has a car, so if we were going anywhere, we can just use her car. Now, what I was able to learn while I was doing it, and I realized, is like, yo, I left my iPad in the car. I can locate the iPad on my phone, which means, bong, I know where the car is. So that was like, I was like, man, that's dope, right? That helped me with easing any of my additional concerns, because I knew where the car was, right? So even if they extended it for another day, it didn't really matter, and I could just at least have some sort of peace of knowing that the car, where the car was, right? So basically the next thing was, from there, the trip went pretty well, right? And now this part is basically me telling you that I did this so that way you don't have to do it. Now, because at the time she requested an additional day, the way that my scheduling was set up, I needed her to bring the car back directly to me, right? To my house where I live. Don't ever do that, right? Now, luckily she was cool, but of course you don't want people to show up where you live. Big told us this a long time ago. You know what I'm saying? So not only is it, for privacy purposes, but it's an inconvenience for your guest. So now drop off time comes. We've already talked about the arrangements when she was going to arrive, right? The guest was 30 minutes late. So now any late returns must be reported after 30 minutes have passed on the trip. So Turo says that you have to message the guest to inquire if they're going to extend the trip or not, or if the car is available for an extension, right? So I think the trip was supposed to be over at 10 in the morning. She didn't get there till like close to 11 o'clock, right? So the guest shows up, and she shows up with her friend who has another car, basically, who follow her in another car so they could drive back together. And when I get outside, I see that the guest is parking her car. Is parking the car, and then her friend is like talking to me as I'm trying to examine the car. And she's in my ear, kind of just going back and forth. Oh my God, this is such a nice car. We had so much fun. We was trying to get it for a longer time, but the site wouldn't let us. I said, yeah, because I got another trip, and I'm trying to like inspect the car, take pictures of it. Mind you, I got my mask on and everything. So everybody else on a mask. So I can't really I'm kind of like trying to talk, listen to her, but I'm trying to take pictures of it, look at the condition of the car and things like that. So I noticed that the car was dirty, but it wasn't anything like, it was just a normal, not wear and tear, but it was just like normal surface dirt, right? So it wasn't really that bad. So it was like, I had said that, you have to wash the car. So I told her, I was like, hey, I'm gonna have to charge you for the car not being clean. And so she was like, okay, and that was it. Now, they go get into the friend's car, and then they sat for a second, and then I end up getting in the car, and then I noticed like in the center console there's a set of keys. Now I go up, like I get the keys, I get out of the car, and I go up to them in their car. Now mind you, the friend's car is like it was like a white it was like a white Nissan Altima, but it was in pretty bad shape. Like there was damage all over the place. I get up to the car, and I'm trying, not to judge or anything like that, but it was definitely a beater, right? So I get up to the car and I knock on the window. I let the window down, and like the smoke cloud definitely hit me in my face, right? And I'm like, hey, look, you left your keys. So they're like, all right, cool, thank you. And then they get out, I give her the keys, and then they pull off. I go walk back to the car. And it wasn't until I like took my mask off, and then I realized that like the the heat was like blasting like all the way up. And I took my mask off, and as soon as I took my mask off, it smelled like all weed, right? It was just like all weed. Now, at this point, I'm irritated because it happened, but wise man once said, that's just the cost of doing business. Plus as a host, like I could report smoking smells at the time. It's like a $50 fee if you smell smoke. And then at the time, I think it was like $100, $150 if you find evidence that there was smoke in the car. So, not really any big deal, right? I got to figure out how I'm going to get the smell out of the car before my next trip. So I left the guest for a review. I left her 4 stars because of the smell, but she left me 5 stars. And that was the end of the first trip. Overall, great success, right? You know what I mean? So the car was going for 4 days, and for the portion of the trip, it was my portion of what I got out of the trip. If it was gone for 4 days, I made about $240. And it came back with a full tank of gas, so I didn't have to put gas in the car. The couple things that I did learn was to, 1, always triple check the vehicle for any personal belongings. 2, never inconvenience the guests. 3, find a way to have eyes on the vehicle at all times. So that was basically my first trip, and it was pretty cool. I felt that sense of confidence after that first one, and I was ready to do the next one. Even with the smoke smell, it didn't bother me. I wasn't discouraged. I wasn't upset. It was just, again, a cost of doing business, So tell me what you think though. Like, what did you like about the situation? How would you have handled it? What do you think you would have done in that situation? And I hope that you liked what you hear, basically. So that is today's episode. But before we do get out of here, I'm going to wrap up talking about the podcast of the week. But again, this is my first Turo trip, right? And so the next couple of episodes, I'll be talking a little bit more in regards to the process and how it's kind of gone from there. But again, let me know what you think. Thanks for taking the time to speak with me about it. But again, before we get out of here, I know last week I referenced the audiobook of the week, which was Black Privilege, Opportunity Comes to Those Who Create It, by Charlemagne the God. This week is another audiobook I wanted to reference. It was a good read. It was a Promised Land by Barack Obama. It's his memoir about him getting into the office, what he had to deal with in his first term, and then, re-election, and just a lot about his growth, his marriage, his how he was viewed as a president, both good and bad. It was a really good listen, and it's narrated by Barack Obama too, so it definitely helps. I would always recommend that you check it out, just to take your mind off of something and maybe just learn a little bit more about the person and realize that they go through things that you can definitely relate to, and how President Obama, Barry's progress helps you with creating your life and creating your process and how you act. So check it out. Again, A Promised Land by Barack Obama. That's the audiobook of the week. And I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Again, I thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I really hope that the information does help. I hope that you like listening to what I have to say. And I'm going to continue to keep going with this, because I know that eventually this is going to be something that is going to be more of a routine. Of course, it always starts with taking that next step. So again, until the next time, make sure you guys keep moving forward. Peace out.